Hey, how are you? Welcome to the news. This is how we greet our inner selves when we're trying to be kind to ourselves as neighbors to each other. When we're greeting ourselves as the neighbors to ourselves, as we try to connect with ourselves, as we relate to ourselves, meaning, and we're trying to connect with ourselves in relation to other people as we see ourselves in connection to other people, and how we sort of greet and treat ourselves also at the same time by just being able to acknowledge ourselves as like neighbors to ourselves when we're conceptualizing how to develop a connection of ourselves to the rest of the world in terms of how we see ourselves to the rest of the world, and how we see ourselves is also in parallel to how we see ourselves to our neighbors necessarily, and our neighbors are known as something like the Joneses. Yeah, so in essence, the reason why I'm greeting myself in the beginning of this is because in essence it's similar to be able to greet yourself as it is like greeting your neighbor who are supposed to be like the Joneses. The Joneses are supposed to be like your neighbor. If you've heard of the saying where it's like the Joneses, be like the Joneses, be similar to the Joneses, have something similar to offer to what the Joneses have, be like the Joneses, get yourself aligned with the Joneses. The Joneses are supposed to be the model family that is supposed to be the people that have it all together in essence, and they are a postmodel of what is supposed to be life that you are supposed to lead and follow, which is supposed to be the postmark of the culture that you live in and among and around, which is ultimately why we're greeting ourselves in the beginning of this greeting, because ultimately the Joneses do not exist. Yeah, the Joneses do not exist. Yeah, so that is why we're trying to greet ourselves in the beginning of this podcast. Yeah, just to be like, hey, what's up to ourselves in essence, like we're greeting our neighbor who are supposed to be like the Joneses in essence, as a symbol, as a theory, in theoretical sense of the word, to be greeting ourselves as the Joneses, as our next door neighbor, because ultimately we are greeting ourselves if we're talking about our neighbors, when we're talking about greeting the neighbors as the Joneses, because you're supposed to be like your neighbor, you're supposed to be like their neighbors on both sides, because they're also keeping up with the Joneses. The Joneses are keeping up with the Joneses, but the Joneses do not exist. So in essence, it's just a concept that it depicts individually based on perceived value from which is different for all 8 billion people in the world. Yeah, all 8 billion people in the world have a different perceived value in essence. So keeping up with the Joneses realistically is not real. So in essence, if you're saying, hey, how are you, neighbor, in the form of the essence of being able to greet the Joneses, in the essence of being able to try to keep up with the Joneses, in the essence of trying to be able to understand who the Joneses are by acknowledging your neighbors and people that are surrounding you and people that are nearby you, by based on what people in your culture are cultured to be thinking about and aligned with, based on cultures that have formed and certain trends that have formed within society. And those are supposed to be the depictions of what the Joneses actually are, except in essence, the Joneses do not exist. Ultimately, the Joneses do not exist. So when you're saying, hey, how do you do, neighbor, in a form of talking to the Joneses, in essence, being able to, as a symbol to talk to the Joneses, is a symbol to be able to identify with what the Joneses do and are. In essence, they are nothing except a figment of your imagination. The Joneses do not actually exist. Keeping up with the Joneses is not a real thing. Keeping up with the Joneses is an illusion, in essence. So, in essence, when you're saying, hey, how are you, neighbor, in this figment of the Joneses being like the neighbors, more or less, because the other people around you are keeping up with trends that you're supposed to necessarily keep up with. In essence, you're saying, hey, how are you to yourself? Because you are the only one that has this perception of what the Joneses actually are, and your neighbors are actually trying to keep up with their own perceptions of what their own idea and figment of the imagination of what the Joneses actually are. But the Joneses do not exist. They are not a family. They are a made-up family, in essence, that corresponds to the metaphor of what the Joneses actually are, which is different for every single person in the world, because perceived value is different for all 8 billion people in the world. So therefore, the Joneses do not actually exist. But it's an interesting metaphor, and it's a creatively created metaphor at the same time, by developing a corresponding connection to a conception of what the Joneses conceptually could be. But in essence, when the realization happens that there are no such thing as the Joneses, and the actualization of there being no such thing as the Joneses, it makes them disappear, it makes them die, it makes the power of the Joneses also disappear and die, and it makes the fragments of what reality actually is very discombobulated, very disoriented, and very much infinite, based on the infinite possibilities of what any given individual and what any given human or human being could possibly be, and or groups of humans, and or the marketing for any given company or group of humans or a circle of people can be marketing themselves as, and do in any given way and any given fashion that corresponds to nobody and nothing that's ever been done before, forever, in the past, and it can be done today or tomorrow or the next week. And that is the freedom of letting go of the Joneses and not understanding what the Joneses are to begin with, and not caring about what the Joneses are, but very, very fundamentally understanding what the nature of the saying of keeping up with the Joneses actually is, and then letting go of that because it is an actual illusion, and it is a betraying illusion at the same time. It is one that it sets people off course. It sets people in the wrong direction by thinking that that is an actual thing, but it just exists within the mind. So you're actually saying, hey, neighbor, in terms of the Joneses, but you're actually saying, hey, to yourself, because you are on both sides of the fence, in essence. The Joneses do not exist, so you're just saying, hey, to yourself. You are the person on both sides of the fence. There is no neighbor that is in the form of the Joneses, so you are on both sides of the fence. You're saying, hey, to yourself, when you think you're looking at the Joneses in this metaphor that exists in your mind of who the Joneses are supposed to be as neighbors in your mind, because it's just you on both sides of the fence. So it's helping to strengthen self-identity, interpersonal identity, because nobody actually really cares at the end of the day who you actually are as a person, ultimately, and especially not the Joneses, because the Joneses do not exist. So nobody, realistically, when you actually get down to brass tacks and you widen your scope into the scope of the whole world and the spectrum of the whole world of 8 billion people, that nobody necessarily really even cares about what you do and what you think and who you are necessarily. So you may as well take that liberation and use it to your advantage and use it as a freeing agent. Use it as a process that lets you be who you actually are and who you want to be, and let it be liberating. Yeah, because the Joneses do not exist. They are an illusion. Yeah. And so we want to take this for a little bit of a turn in this conquest to be able to try to connect all human beings to animals by being able to identify that we have this whole alter ego like to ourselves in essence, kind of like the Joneses in essence, but it's the positive side of this alter ego in essence that corresponds to sleep, who we are and who we become like when we're sleeping, and how that corresponds to real estate and the real estate market and the real estate world in essence, because real estate harbors and it hosts all people, typically in the place where they go to sleep, typically in the place where they become a different person. Everybody becomes a different person when they are asleep, kind of like the Joneses. They think they're a different person, but ultimately they're just trying to keep up with the Joneses, and the Joneses don't exist, but it's always themselves at the same time. But this is a positive version of the Joneses, more or less. It's the sleep version of the Joneses, where you're in essence, you are just a complete free-form being. The Joneses are an idea of following strict guidelines and strict order and strict boundaries, whereas the other side of who you are, on the other side of this alter ego in essence, is during the sleep mode. During sleep mode, everybody is this separate person. It's two different lives. Everybody has two separate lives. One when they're awake and one when they're asleep. One when they're conscious, one when they're unconscious, sleeping in essence. And so that's how it connects to the real estate market, because every single person in the world is connected, because when they think, they emit light. And there's biophotons. Biophotons are emitted from the mentality. When thinking, in essence, all humans, all beings, in essence, are emitting light within the brain. They're biophotons, in essence, that are sparking and being back and forth based on the friction of metabolism happening, and that's creating electricity and actual light that connects all human beings, ultimately. So that's how we need to be able to try to level the playing field and understand the connection between animals and human beings. Animals and human beings that are all emitting biophotons from thinking at the same time, and this light is able to connect all of us as human beings, as common beings on the planet, in essence, and this connects it to the real estate market, because everybody sleeps and everybody has their own version of real estate to where they're actually sleeping in the world, animals and people included, in essence. So the essence of the idea of real estate is connecting all people through the essence of light, and everybody's outside, in essence, like outside of everybody's window, and inside of everybody's house, outside of everybody's window. When they're sleeping, there's a connection, a fundamental connection, so that there's a realization and an acknowledgement of all connection, of all human beings and all animals at all times, all connection between all human beings and all animals at all times. And that fundamentally is connected also through the essence of real estate, because that's where most all human beings are hosted, in essence, and that's how they are, in essence, connecting their light. More or less, they're recharging their batteries, they're recharging their biophotons to be able to emit more so light, and they're burning metabolism, which is extending on the light. It's fueling the light. It's making this light go brighter, in essence. So we're connecting ourselves to the light, to the rest of the world, by just acknowledging the rest of the world is outside at all given times. That's the connection to real estate, because in essence, it's an acknowledgement that the rest of the world is outside, percolating light and connecting each other, and we're always connected through this light, through metabolism, burning individuals, and the chemistry within all human beings and all animals at all given times. So we're all connected by this light. It's called the Global Philanthropy Energy Grid. I continue to call it the Global Philanthropy Energy Grid. It's the Global Philanthropy Energy Grid that connects all human beings by electricity. We're all connected by these biophotons, by this mentality, by this light. So in essence, the purpose of even mentioning real estate, in essence, every single person's real estate, every single person's place where they lay their head at night, where they rest, where they are sleeping, in essence, they are continuously connected to the Global Philanthropy Energy Grid. They're continuously connected to all human beings and all other animals that are on the planet because of this light. This light is a connection piece to all other people, and it's an energetic connection that even if you're in real estate, you don't realize it. When you're outside of real estate, you can feel it. You can understand it a little bit more. You can feel the connectivity to nature in essence, but in essence, the purpose is to be able to connect this understanding that when we're in our dwellings, when we're in our homes, when we're sleeping, it's a different alter ego and it's a different persona. Realistically, it makes all of us the same. It makes animals and humans the same. When you're sleeping, when we're all sleeping, we are all the same. We're all emitting light, and we're all this different subconscious way of thinking. Animals and people alike are merged together because we all are different people. We're different mindsets. We're not fluid people. We are not fluid mentalities. We are not fluid personalities. We're completely free mentalities, free personalities, free aspects of energy that are just flowing and emitting light freely that connects between animals and humanity at all given times when we're sleeping, when we are sleeping. So it's just to be able to try to acknowledge that this light is still connecting us even when we're inside and we're blocking it from real estate in essence, but we're also being able to be connected by identifying that everybody sleeps and everybody has dwellings, but the real estate industry in essence, this just fundamentally corresponding is a fundamentally corresponding idea in terms of like a marketing sense, but also in a sense that it helps to be able to connect all people in the world at all given times. But it also, this podcast is to be able to try to recognize the fact that we're all connected during sleep. We all have this different connection, but it's easy to be able to not see it because we're all always covered by real estate. Typically everybody in the world, every person in the world typically is covered by real estate during their essence of sleep. But that's when they're most connected to everybody else in the world. That's when they're most connected to all the other animals in the world, because all animals sleep at the same, also every single day. All animals sleep also at the same time. Every animal's that metabolize, and we're all burning light. So it's being able to acknowledge this real estate industry because it's covering this light. And once you acknowledge that everybody is outside, everything is outside, all the countries, everything, and all this light is outside, that ultimately we realize that what the real estate industry is good for and is standing for is helping to be able to garner and hone in on this light, and it's like a nest to be able to hone in on and incubate this light so that ultimately we can continue to, in the future, as the future marches on, that we can continue to manifest and grow and blow this light into the future, light into the future, so that we can more so become connected to animals, more so become connected to animals, because this other side of us, this sleeping side of us is in this humanity, is all able to be connected with each other through the light that connects to all of us, the light that connects all of us through philanthropy energy, to be able to connect all of us as human beings and animals as one, all of us as human beings and animals as one, because we are not fluid creatures when we are sleeping. We are not all fluid creatures as one when we are sleeping, and that's why it's worth acknowledging the real estate industry, because it holds all of us inside ultimately, and it's incubating us to be able to eventually blossom into the future, so that all of this light can eventually be recognized on the global philanthropy energy grid. But right now it's being hosted inside the real estate industry, and at the same time we're trying to expand on the real estate industry because we want to be able to acknowledge the nature that's outside, to be able to get ourselves more connected. And this is part of the future marketing of the real estate industry. And that's why I guess I'm mentioning it, because we're hoping to still go a little bit further in towards the real estate industry. And we want to remarket and use this concept of sleeping and being a different person and everybody being merged during sleep in our future marketing for trying to market future real estate as a collective, almost portfolio of global real estate, like a global real estate portfolio, all given at all given times at once, like selling global packages of real estate, because this is how we want to try to move energy around the world. Yeah. And at the same time, we want to end this out just basically by giving a shout out to the connection to animals that are in the ocean, because there's a lot of pollution in the ocean. So we're just trying to give a shout out to being able to try to clean up the ocean, being able to try to give a shout out to all the people that, or not all the people, but all the animals that live in the ocean, all the animals that live inside the ocean, to be able to try to give them a shout out, because we need to clean up the ocean. Ultimately, we need to be able to clean up the ocean and be able to leverage this ideation that we're all connected to animals at all given times, to be able to try to clean up their habitats, because ultimately a lot of the real estate that is kept by humans is kept clean inside ultimately, but the oceans are hosts to many animals which are connected obviously directly to us. The animals are directly connected to us in our ecosystem, and we need to be able to clean out the concept of the whole entire world as an ecosystem and be able to clean out fundamentally the oceans, so that all the animals can be best connected to us And we can have a best connected, harmonious ecosystem that pings and connects and collects all of the best energy that is possible among all animals and all humans every single day, all the time. And we need to start by cleaning out the ocean, because the ocean is completely polluted and a lot of animals are dying because of the pollution in the ocean. But indirectly, trash. I'm talking about trash. We need to clean out trash in the ocean, so that we have a better connection and better connectivity between a global ecosystem of man and animals and a better ecosystem, a better flowing ecosystem and economy and process to be able to improve and make our systems more efficient for the future, especially since we can engineer our own food and we do not need to develop this waste any longer. We can not have to pollute the world and the oceans any longer, because we can re-engineer our food in the future based on the new molecular technology to be able to develop it. So let's start doing that so we can connect effectively, efficiently, and smoothly and fluidly with humans and animals in the future, collectively in connectivity through our emitting light that we're emitting, and we're all completely equal during our sleeping hours. Humans and animals aligned. Ding Tech. Thanks again, Ding Tech Change for Games, Ding Tech Change for Games Studios. Bye, peace, bye.